welcome back to the Gemara in Bava Kamma, Daf Chet Amud Aleph. Actually picking up from the beginning of the piece that we did in class last Friday. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Machar le'achad u'l'shosha bnei adam ke'achad. If somebody sold to one person or to three people all at once, meaning they sold all of their property and 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter how many people they sold to, but the important thing to understand about this person is that they owe money, and the seller owes money to somebody. There's 3 different ways they could owe money that we've talked about. They could owe money because they damaged somebody, or they could owe money because they borrowed money from somebody, or they could owe money because they have to pay the ketubah of a woman. And each one of those cases is different because there's different kinds of land that you have to pay from. But this person sold all their land. Kulan nichnasu tachat haba'alim. Each one of those new owners of the land literally enters in place of the original owner. In other words, I sold my worst quality land to you, and we know that the ketubah of a woman is collected from worst quality land, and I have no more worst quality land left, so she's going to collect from you. And so on and so forth for the other kinds of owings of money. Bezeh achar zeh, kulan govin min ha'acharon. If I sold off my land sequentially, and again I have all these debts, and now I have no more land because I sold it all off, so then everyone, the woman who's collecting her ketubah, the lender who's collecting the money that I borrowed, and the damaged person who I damaged, they're all going to collect from the last person who bought land from me. Ein lo gova milishefanav, ein lo gova mishilifnei panav. And if that person doesn't have, then they'll collect from the second to last buyer, and so on and so forth. Right? They have to be able to collect, and the point is they can collect from the person to whom I sold, starting with the last buyer, but if the last buyer doesn't have enough, then they'll go to the second to last buyer, etc. Machran le'echad hichidami. Then the Gemara asks a question about this source. If the case where you sold to one person, right, the machar le'echad case in the Breita, hichidami, what exactly is the case there? Right, what exactly is going on there? Ilema bevad achat, hashta l'shlosha. If you want to say that they sold it to all the property to one person at once, so it's basically the same as selling to 3 people. To igal meimar chad minahu kadim. With the 3 people, you could say, well, one happened first, or you could sell it all at once. But shlosha bnei adam ke'achad makes it sound like it's all at the same time. So this is all the question, right? So igal meimar chad minahu kadim, because you could say that one of them came before the other. Amart kulan nichnasu tachat haba'alim. So then you say that they all become like the original owner. Machran le'echad mibaye. So then why do we need to be told about selling to one owner, right? 3 at once is just like selling to one owner. It's not really any different. I'm going to try to show that this is a different color. Hopefully you can see that. This is the challenge. Ala pshita bezeh achar zeh. Rather, it's obvious that the Breita must be talking about a case where the buyer bought the properties one after another. In other words, the one-person case where you sold it to one person, but they didn't buy it all at once. They bought one, and then later they bought the next property, and later they bought the next property. So that's the response. I'll actually put a period there. That's the response to the challenge. Umayshna shlosha zechol chad v'chad amar le hinachti lecha makom ligbot mimenu. But then, what's the difference between this and a case where there's 3 buyers? Each one can say, "Hinakti lecha makom ligbot mimenu." Right? I left you a place to collect from. Meaning, each of the individual buyers will say, "Well, it's really not my problem. You can't collect from me because I left property behind when I did my buying." Hainami akol chad v'chad lemalei hinakti lecha makom ligbot mimenu. So here too, the single buyer also will say, "No, like each time I bought, I left land behind. So why do you think you can collect from any part of my land, right? That shouldn't be the case." This is all part of the challenge. Hacha b'may askinan. So the Gemara is trying a new ukimta. Here, what are we dealing with? Meaning, what's our brayta actually dealing with? Kigon shalakach idzitz ba'achorna. Like in a case where you purchased the really good land last. So the single purchaser purchased the really good land last. V'chen amar Rav Sheshet. And so too, Rav Sheshet says, meaning he interprets this the same way. Kigon shalakach idzitz ba'achorna. It's a case where you bought the really good land last. So the last land, which is the land most likely to be collected from, is also the best land. So here's the problem. So if that's the case, then all of the people who are collecting, even the people who wouldn't normally get idzit, they wouldn't normally get the best land, they're going to say, oh, well, I'm supposed to collect from the last purchase. So, okay, I'm going to come and collect from the best of the land. And even though maybe I was owed ziborit or benonit, I'm going to collect from the idzit because that's the last thing that you purchased from the person who actually owed me the money. Mishum de amar lahu. So the response is, no, it's going to be okay, right? They're not going to be able to do that because he, the buyer, is going to say, ishtakito v'shaklito kedinaichu. Shaklito. It says, if you want to be quiet and just take what you're owed, fine, go ahead and do that, meaning you'll take the same quality of land that you would have gotten if you'd collected from the original person who owed you the money. V'ilo, but if you're not willing to do that, mehadarna shtara d'ziburit zamare, v'shaklito kulchu miziburit. But if not, I'm going to return the shtar, I'm going to return the contract of sale for the really bad land to its original owner. And then you're going to be forced to collect from the ziburit. Right? The only reason you're collecting from me is because, guy number one, the person who actually owes you the money, doesn't have any more land. But I can undo that. I can undo that by just returning the land to that person. Okay, so that's a possibility, but the Gemara doesn't like this. Ihachi, if so, b'nezikin nami nemahachi. Then with cases of nezek, we could also say this, right? That, yes, you'll be able to collect just from the worst land, and we'll force them to take the bad land, which is less than they were entitled to. Meaning it's fine if what you were entitled to, it's fine in the ketubah situation, but it's not so fine in the case of nezek, where we do want to be sure that they get paid what they were actually owed, which was not ziburit. It was actually meitav sedehim. Ella, hacha b'may askinan. Rather, what are we dealing with here? Biyat me delav pnei pir'on minhu. A new kimta for the Breita. Actually, the Breita is talking about a case of orphans. Orphans in rabbinic literature are just people who have lost a parent. They haven't necessarily lost both. The father has died, and they are not. They're not subject to collection of these debts. So it's not that they bought the land and they're considered lekuchot. They acquired the land, but they didn't buy it. So it's a different kind of situation. Actually, I'll change this to a comma. V'shiabuda dilei alei didei ramya. And so really the shiabud, the lien is the technical English word, right? The responsibility isn't actually on them, right? The responsibility to pay those debts isn't actually on them. Didei ramya. It's put back on it's thrown back onto the person to whom the money is owed, meaning it's sort of going to be their bad luck. Hilkach legal memar hachi, ela mishum de amar lahu. So therefore, right, meaning we've sort of gotten ourselves stuck here. Right? The Breita is not working out for us for understanding situations of nezek, which is what we actually want to understand. So hilkach lememar hachi. So we can't really say this, right? We can't say that the Breita is based on this idea that, like, well, you can always outsmart the people who are coming to collect the money because the buyer can always say, oh, I'll just return the land. I would say this is a challenge or even like a rejection. Ela mishum de amar lahu tamam mai Emor Rabbanan, ein nifrein menichasin mishubadim, b'makom sheyesh b'nei chorin. Okay, I'm going to pause there. So rather, here's a new way that we're going to avoid having the case that the Breita describes, where you have this land that was acquired, and again, everyone's going to rush to collect just from the best land, even though they're not necessarily owed just the best land. So here's how we're going to avoid it. The rabbis said, Emor Rabbanan, ein nifrein menichasin mishubadim, that you can't collect from land that has a lien on it, meaning land that someone else has a claim to. B'makom sheyesh b'nei chorim, if there is land that doesn't have a claim on it, right? If the original person who owed the money still had the land, you wouldn't be able to collect from the land that the buyer had gotten. And if the buyer has land that has no claim on it, you have to collect from that land and not from the land that does have a claim on it. Mishum takanta didi, ana behatakanta lo nichali. So it's because of takanta didi. It's a takana made to benefit me, meaning this is what the buyer is saying. Right? The whole idea, there is this takana d'Rabbanan that you're finding out about now, that you can't collect from land that is sort of owed to someone else unless there's no other land to collect from. And he says, and that takana is really to benefit me as the buyer. It's to make sure that I don't get into the situation where I bought land and now somehow I'm going to be at a loss because these creditors are going to come after me. I don't want this takana. And for our purposes, where we don't do a lot of buying and selling of land, and that part was all very confusing, here's what I'd like you to focus on. Kidder Rava. In accordance with the idea of Rava, De'amar Rava. Because Rava said, I'm going to say that all of this is the response or the answer, and this is going to be a proof text. So De'amar Rava starts off the proof for this idea, or the support. Kol ha'omer I efshi b'takanat chachamim, kigon zo, shomin lo. Anyone who says, it's impossible for me, efshi literally is the same as efshar, right? But, here it means like sort of, I don't want this takanat chachamim, like this one. Right? In a case like this, that's what kigon zo means. So anyone who says, I don't want this takanat chachamim, in a case like this, we listen to him. Because again, the assumption is a takana comes from the root of tikkun, to come in and fix something. The assumption is the rabbis came in to fix something when they made this rule. And so if it doesn't fix it for me, if I don't feel like something's been fixed, then I don't have to follow this takana. So again, Rava says, anyone who says, I don't want to follow this takanat chachamim in such a case as this, kigonzo, shomin lo. We listen to that person. My kigonzo, what does kigonzo mean in Rava's statement? Like, what's the case that he has in mind? Kidder Rav Huna. It's like Rav Huna's statement. This is a question. We'll make it red. It's not really a challenge. It's just a question of clarification. Kidder Rav Huna, like Rav Huna. De'amar Rav Huna, Yechola isha shetomar leba'ala, eini nizonet ve'eini yosa. It's like that which Rav Huna said. I'll say, I guess to be consistent, I'll say this is the answer. It's like the statement of Rav Huna, and this is the support or proof text for the answer. Whoops. De'amar Rav Huna, because Rav Huna said, a woman can say to her husband, eini nizonet ve'eini yosa, I'm not going to take your money for food, right? I don't want to be fed. You thought you had to give me food. You thought you had to provide for my food. I don't want to give you my food, or I don't want you to give me your food. Sorry, I don't want you to pay for my food. And I'm not going to, eini yosa, I'm not going to work and give you my income. That's the example, that's the paradigmatic example of a case where there's a takanat chachamim to benefit somebody, and the somebody for whom that is meant to be a benefit can turn it down. Okay, we'll pause there.